my whole goal was to retire. That was it, sole focus. And then I was sitting with my buddy talking to him. And he goes, my mom just quit her job. She was going to retire in a couple years, but she said she was going to work for a few extra years and work at Starbucks because it's way more fun. And I go, whoa, I never thought of that. You mean I could like have a job and have fun? And this was before we'd shrunk Moceri Construction and done any of that. And so I changed my mindset of I need to retire to I need to enjoy life.
All right. Tony Moceri in the building, Bellingham studio, episode 7, season 3. We're here. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Leo. I'm excited to be here.
And we've been talking about this specific moment over and over, whether it's at drinks or it's just in passing or coffee. And we're here. We made it happen.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've listened to a lot of the episodes and your line of questioning and the people you get in here. I'm flattered to be one of the people you want to have in here. And anytime we get to sit down and have a chat, I guess Tiffany will get to decide on whether you guys post it or not. But we're gonna get to talk no matter what.
That's right. We always do. So for those that are listening, many people know you in the community for a variety of different reasons. But if you were to put it in a nutshell of what you do, what is it that you do? Who are you?
Well, mentally, what I see myself is someone that just loves to try whatever comes in my brain, which can drive my coworkers, spouse, daughter, friends a little crazy. But that's kind of what I've been doing for, probably my whole life, but really, the last 20 years, I've been pretty actively, if I have an idea, see where it maybe can go. But as far as like practically what I do, it's, Moceri Construction. We've been building homes locally. My dad started the business in 1974. He's still hanging around doing stuff. And then me and my brother, still building houses and doing that. We do a lot of real estate investing. It's a big part of what we do. And then I do freelance writing, right, for a lot of local publications, which, we can get in that a little more if you want later, but that's been a pretty exciting thing over the last couple of years. And then random stuff. I got an Instagram page promoting yard games. My wife and I have a Instagram page posting about our travels and camping and stuff like that. And just someone that likes to do a lot of stuff. I have a lot of interests and, they often spiral into other things. Yeah.
So, okay. I'm really interested in this part. So many people are afraid to try things. Like there's a lot of people that have what we call analysis paralysis. And you probably look at them and go, well, you should just give it a shot. What was this like something that you were just born with where you're like, I'm going to try whatever comes in my mind that I think I can do? Was it a self-confidence or was it your parents saying, yeah, go give it a shot?
Honestly, probably ignorance, right? Like, and I think I was just born with it. It's one of those things where, I've always spoke before I thought about what I was going to say, go and run into the wall before seeing that it's there. It definitely led to struggles, maybe getting in a little bit of trouble, doing things that didn't pan out. But I also think it's been one of my biggest successes. Analysis paralysis is definitely not something I have. Probably have the opposite. Try to surround myself with people that do a little more analysis. Yeah. So they can say, I don't know, Tony, that might not be such a good idea. And they can give me pause. It's really, I'm easily excitable. Mm-hmm. And when I get into something, I dive into it. I try to learn everything I can about it. Try to become as much of an expert as I can and run with something. And some of those somethings go somewhere and some of them go nowhere. So, there's a bunch that there's thousands that nobody's ever heard of or seen or anything except for maybe my poor wife.
Just ideas. Yeah.
Just
she
ideas.
hears a lot of it. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, and it's interesting because it truly is a numbers game, especially when you're creating things, but it's also a quality game. And so the cool thing is the things that have come to the surface as successes for you or you've taken over are very high quality. So tell me a little bit about like when you're focused on so many different things, but you also have these really high quality things that are working. How do you balance? How do you have the bandwidth to keep the quality there, but then also like try things that like start out without quality, right? Because everything starts with a lack of quality until you make it quality, right?
Yeah, and I tend to not want to move things forward unless I can do it in a quality way.
Yep.
I'd say there is definitely a lot of things that I have started just in my home office on my own that never materialize because I get into it and I say, I can't deliver this in a way that I would be happy. I think the quality thing, um, really, I grew up in a household where my dad and my mom was going to work and building beautiful homes where the number one thing was quality. That was always the most important thing. And then I married my wife, who she's, cut from the same mold where everything is, has to be done really, really well, or we're not doing it. And so that's just really resonated with me. And so, I've had my consistent things that I've been doing for decades now. Um, and then I have other things that have come and gone. And I like to think that I did all of them well. I definitely to the best of my ability. And then, yeah, there's things that nobody's ever seen because I wasn't, yeah, comfortable with what I could produce, or I lost interest, which is frankly really easy for me to do.
So it's easy for you to gain interest and lose interest pretty
All the
quickly.
time.
You're
You
like,
should see my bookshelves.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
unbelievable. I buy a book on everything I get interested in. That's kind of like my test. Like if I can, subscribe to a magazine on it or buy a book, and like if I actually read all the book, I'm like, okay, somewhat committed to this, or get halfway through the book. All right, this isn't for me. Let's move on to something else.
Well, this is one of the things that we've talked about here is the whole adaptive intelligence, and that's something that's really cool. I think some people see it as like ADD, and others would see it as, oh no, like it's either it's following the path, or it's of interest, or it's of value, or it's not. And so that's the way I look at it. Tell me a little bit more about your adaptability and being able to say, I'm not good at this, or don't want to be good at this, and then moving on and not being like too tied to the fact that something you spent energy on something.
Yeah. So I get interested in things very easily. Like my wife and I had hair salons. Uh, my wife, she was a hairstylist by trade. We ended up buying a hair salon. And so I went all in. Turned out it was super interesting, learned a ton about it. I knew nothing about hair beforehand, but this learning it, getting excited about, and I guess my point there is I can get excited about almost anything. And so I think it's, we're not on this planet long enough, in my opinion. So I want to explore things that I'm interested in. So I dive in, and then I don't see it as a waste. I feel like I'm building these layers of knowledge. I'm getting to experience things on whatever level I do. I do some business coaching and some real estate coaching. It's my way to, help people, but also live vicariously through them and get to experience some of a business that I'll probably never explore.
Right.
And so I think that's my mentality is, learning about this stuff, getting to know it. I don't see it as a waste at all. Like the more I can experience, the more I can learn, the better. I want
All
to,
layers.
yeah. Like I wish I didn't have to sleep at all. I want to just live as much as I possibly can.
I love that. I love that. And I want to take a little segue back into hair salons. So before we dive into like the meat and potatoes, you dove into hair, and Lindsay, your wife, was, she ran a hair salon, or she was working in a hair salon.
Yep.
And you bought the hair salon together?
A different one. Yeah. So we weren't married yet. We were in our mid-20s.
Yep.
Again, ignorance is bliss, right? We had tried to start a salon a little while before that. Space didn't pan out. And the commercial real estate agent I had been talking to called me up and he goes, Tony, I got a deal for you. This salon's for sale. It's inexpensive. The woman just wants to spend more time with her family. And if you got a good arm, you could hit it with a rock from Moceri Construction. So it was Salon Bellissima in Fairhaven.
right on.
And we go, all right, borrowed the money from my brother for, I think I paid him in interest was like a case of High Life or something, you know? And we bought it and knew nothing. My wife had done advanced training at Jean Juarez, super good stylist.
So you bet on her.
Bet on her.
Yep.
She had a full clientele. We inherited a few people in the salon. And again, we're in our mid 20s. Didn't know much. Everything I knew about business was
try.
Yeah, well, just from Moceri Construction, and I hadn't even been in the office for very long at that point. And we just kind of went for it. Lindsay and I were both in school. I was a post-bac doing some psychology stuff, and she was doing some business stuff, and we dropped our classes and said, all right, well, I guess this is a business school now.
Was that an easy decision? Did it feel easy in that moment to go, okay, I've already committed to finishing school, but in this moment, I'm like, this is the right thing. How did you decide? It was the right thing
we
to do?
finished our courses, and then we dropped them going into that next quarter. And yeah, I mean, I kind of thought, I'm like, we didn't know if Lindsay would go back and do that anymore. You know, this was owning a salon was kind of the goal. So if she's doing it, then great. I still had thought I would go back. Super interested in psychology, wanted to study it more, specifically sports psychology. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I didn't go do that, but we buy the salon, and fortunately we had a few stylists there. And then Lindsay, you just add her to a salon, and it was instantly cash flow positive, basically, just from her volume. So that helped.
So she's the real genius behind that.
She's the genius. She had the following. She had the talent. She was the reason that we knew we'd be able to make our rent payment and buy product and all that. And so about 6 months in, you know, got a little bit of confidence, kind of figured out how we were doing things. And I kind of sat down with everybody and said how we were going to be doing things going forward. And they were all older than me. They'd all been in the salon industry a lot longer than me. And I said, all right, this is how we're doing things. Obviously with Lindsay on board, we had discussed it. And they said, well, that's not how it's done in the salon industry. And I go, I'm not from the salon industry.
Yeah.
And they all chose to leave. We brought in new people. We had hired a couple people since then. And so we had Salon Bellissima for a while. We ended up opening up a second salon called Caribou in kind of downtown Fairhaven. Yep. Yeah. We ended up then selling Salon Bellissima. Basically, somebody approached us, wanted to buy it.
You're ready?
Well, we weren't ready. I said, no, why would we do that? And they said, well, you don't want two salons. And I go, I don't know. We designed them totally differently. This, you know, they're essentially running, you know, the one's running itself, you know, we had a manager in place. And, but I told the broker, the same broker, I said, well, but if they'll pay this, I'll sell it to them. I said, yes. So we said, yes. And, Salon Bellissima is still there. And then we had Caribou for a couple more years. Then the daughter came, and my wife was working less. I was doing more of running a salon than probably someone that doesn't have any knowledge about hair should be doing. And we had an awesome manager that, frankly, without her, I don't know what we would have done that first year with Harper being born. And we ended up selling it to her. And but I loved it. I learned so much. I learned more in the first 6 months owning a hair salon than I did of all of college.
So one of the cool things about you trying these things and getting obsessed, you should get obsessed with your business, obsessed with your passion, is that you learn really fast, but then there's always like a lesson, a layer that you pull out. What was like the golden ticket in your head of like what you learned in those 6 months, 12 months and beyond from the salon?
Yeah. So I learned a lot about business, the financial piece. I wasn't involved with any of the bookkeeping, any of that stuff at Moceri Construction at that time. I had a couple rentals at that point, but it was like Excel spreadsheet, shoebox full of receipt kind of scenario. Didn't really know what I was doing. And then also just like we learned a lot about promotion, and social media was just getting rolling a little bit. Interacting with people, I was hiring people. There were some rules that changed in the time, so getting creative on how to have these businesses make money. Um, I could probably talk for this whole podcast about just the salon industry, what I learned. We went to Italy and went to Davanese, that they're a hair product company, and took a tour. And I mean, just learned so much of just general business knowledge, I would say, and hair specific stuff. We'd be at a party and someone would ask a question about a hair product or balayage or whatever, and I'd chime in because I'm, loud, and
like, what?
They'd be like, "What? Why does this guy know what's going on?"
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm a quick study on some level, but I don't have a very good memory. So really learning things isn't easy for me at all. I have to do.
Yeah.
Like I have all these books, I read them, forget everything I read.
And then go do it.
I have to go do it, but I have to do it, talk about it, explain it, live it to really learn something.
So this is one of your first businesses, right? At this time.
Yeah, I would say that was my first official business that we owned.
And you were like, you and Lindsay were like, this is it. We're going to do this. We're going to take over the salon world. Or was it like, this is what we're doing now, and we're flexible that if something else, some other opportunity comes up, we're ready to shift gears? What was your mindset like?
No, we were all in. I mean, we had a couple things. We had a lot going on at that time. No kids.
Yeah.
I mean, we were in our 20s. We were cranking. We were traveling as much as we could and working as much as we could. We saw each other on Sundays because I was working 7 to 5 or whatever at Moceri Construction. See her at the salons a little bit, Monday through Friday, and then she's working Saturdays, Tuesday through Saturday, 2 to 7 kind of a thing. And I was coaching, and I had a nonprofit organization called the VZ Foundation we had started. So we were putting on these events, and but we were all in. Our plan with Caribou, so we designed it very specifically. She goes, I want you to find me a white porcelain caribou head, and I want the space to look like this. And she sent me this picture of this Scandinavian salon that it was like super white and super dark. And in the dark area, it had Vogue magazine covers plastered all over the wall.
Wow, that's specific.
Yeah. And I go, oh my gosh. Yeah. So I called up one of my, I get one of my carpenters and had him in there working. And so we designed the space. We ended up not doing anything on the wall, just super dark, super light. All the stations for the stylists were rolling toolboxes, so we could roll everything out to have events in there. And we'd throw parties and do different stuff in there. And so it really became a gathering place. We had art openings, had featured artists that would rotate through. And the big plan was either to have multiple caribous, potentially a hair product line. And then there was an idea of having a clothing element also. The other idea we had that we never really we didn't take anywhere, was to just flip salons, because it was literally you add Lindsay and boom, it's profitable. I had a good model for bringing in great people. Lindsay's no drama. People loved working with her. So we were going down that track, and Caribou was doing awesome. But we also decided to start a family, and that changes everything.
Yeah.
The priorities changed instantly. Lindsay's passion for hair kind of went away. And so we moved on. And I actually, have a couple times floated out the idea of buying a salon, and I've seen them come up, and
we know what to do.
Lindsay's been a hard no. She's the sensible one, and without her, I got nothing. So, so we haven't, and I don't think that we ever will.
But you're still going to ask. because that's your nature.
Oh, it's still my, yeah.
You're still going to say,
Still
hey, I
my
saw
nature.
this, it popped up.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
And Lindsay now, she gets to do she pursued the clothing thing. So she's doing that online and she does pop-ups.
Yep.
And so she's still getting to pursue that part of the passion. And then we put in a little space at our house and she does a little bit on the side.
It's awesome. And you had mentioned something about having a couple rentals right when you had started up the business. So you knew the basics of real estate. You knew you had either you had figured it out or you'd stumbled your way into it, just like everyone with their first real estate purchase or transaction. Tell me about your experience and why did you say I want to buy a house or houses or rentals or invest in real estate?
Yeah. So I grew up around houses. I would skip school to go pour concrete with my dad. Our house was never finished. I didn't live in
the classic contractor?
That's the classic contractor. I didn't live in a completed house until I went away to college. And that was a not so great dorm, but whatever.
But it was complete.
It was complete. Yeah,
Yeah,
it had been completed for a long time. And so, yeah, so it had always kind of been houses, is what I knew. I grew up, at 15, I was going to work every summer, all summer, did that consistently. And, I don't know, played Monopoly, whatever. And, I was 20 or so and had moved back to Bellingham. I transferred to Western and my dad goes, we don't know anything except for houses. You better buy one.
Yeah.
And I go, okay.
Yeah.
And, this is back when, banks were giving away money like candy and we all know how that turned out, but, I got lucky.
Did it not turn out well?
No, there's a couple bumps. But, I knew how to work on the houses. I was lucky that they were rented. So, that turned out okay for me, even though I wasn't always ahead on all of them for the whole time. But, I, lost my train of thought there for a second.
Start over. Yeah.
Yeah. So bought my first place, went in, and the bank said, well, do you have a job? And I go, well, work at the Boys and Girls Club and make like $8 an hour. And they go, good enough. Here you go. Here's your loan for a house, kid. And it was rented when I bought it.
Yeah.
And it was basically never vacant. I had to go in and do stuff a few times. And we could sit here and talk about rental stories for a long time. I've learned a lot. Wasn't all sunshine and roses, but I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
My dad had a couple of rentals. And yeah, he said I should buy one.
What did your first rental cost?
It was $139,000 over on Ellis Street. So
that's right like an escalation minimum now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a four bed, 2 bath.
Say Ellis,
just literally right here.
So that's a different price point now.
Yeah. And
good timing.
Yeah. Lucky. And I don't know when Rich Dad Poor Dad came out, but I had never read it. There was no podcast talking about real estate. I had never read a single book about it. I didn't know what a cap rate was. I didn't know anything. Yeah. But I knew that my goal was always to retire. That's what I thought I was supposed to do, was to make enough money to retire. Sole goal. That's it. From the time I was like, I don't know, 12. Teacher goes, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd say retired. And they're like, all right, go out in the hallway,
at least be an astronaut. Come on, man.
And after I gave up my NBA career,
you said NBA,
was
not MBA.
NBA was my first plan. Yeah. When that didn't pan out,
was it because you weren't 7 feet tall?
Nowhere near that didn't help. And then probably also my skills. So yeah, that didn't quite pan out. So then I'm like, well, I better just get retired then if I'm not going to get to play basketball for a living. So my idea was, all right, I'm going to buy rental houses. And again, as I pour myself into stuff, I went to real estate school, found out what realtors have to do. So I got a lot of respect for you guys. Decided not to get my license, decided I did not want to be a realtor, but doing that was so valuable.
Yep.
When I do my real estate coaching, a lot of people that I talk to, I go, you know what? Take the class, buy the book, whatever, the $600 you'll spend on the class, will pay dividends if you want to be a real estate investor.
It's all about covering your ass, right? It's
Exactly.
all about it. Yeah.
And just,
Yeah.
and some of the stuff in that course isn't overly useful. But so much of it is. And just speaking the language.
Yeah.
I think that's, I've learned the construction language. I learned the psychology language. I learning the real estate language. So when you're standing there, or you got an offer that's sent over to you, you know what's going on.
Yeah.
So that started my path of, I want to retire. I knew nothing about the stock market. I didn't know how to make an app or a website or write code or anything like that. So I figured I'd buy houses and I'd rent them out. And my plan was, if I could be cash flowing a couple $1,000s a month, that'd be enough for me to live in my college house and drink with my buddies every weekend.
Let's talk about cash flow, because I think there's a romanticized view on cash flow. People are like, you need to be cash flowing $2,000 per house, but like, tell me a little bit more about, like, how do you add up cash flow? Like, what's your goal when you buy a rental property? What's ideal? Breaking even $100 a month, $200 a month? How do you look at that?
So when I first got started, my goal was to save up 25% down, because I would get a break on my interest rate if I could get to 25% instead of 20. And then I wanted my rents to be $500 for every $100,000 in rent. And that's how I knew how to do it. And my goal was to make 5% on my rents and 5% on appreciation. And if I did that, I was happy. And really my goal was just to get the houses for free. I didn't even think about, I had no idea the market would do what it has done. Nobody obviously did. And I also didn't see rents doing what they've done. They didn't grow very quickly at the start. And so I was just trying to get a free house, with my tenants slowly paying my mortgage. And then I figured I'd do that, end up with a house. And if I could do that a few times, now I have this income coming in. And so it wasn't a get rich quick scheme. It was this is a process. But if I can work really hard, make money, pay down those loans, that expedites the process.
So you're not going out and buying crazy trucks and, doing all sorts of stuff that you're wasting money on. You're just dumping your money into these houses.
No, if you saw my truck, you'd laugh. And I pulled up here in a 1985 Westphalia that it started this morning, first try. So no,
it's a blessing.
Yeah. So
shout out to the Westphalia. For
exactly.
Firing up this morning.
Shout out to Tim, who keeps that thing on the road for me, because I'm not mechanically inclined. So no fancy trucks. If you want to see my success, you can count it in, we like to go on vacation, and I buy too many yard games.
Yeah. Those are really expensive, aren't they?
Some, they're going up there.
The
cost of plywood hasn't helped.
Yeah.
So no, again, we like to live. So traveling is a big part of what we do, but I've never been one to say I'm going to drive around in an $80,000 truck or whatever.
Sounds like at that time that would be pretty much a house, like half a house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what I was building at the time. It was really, this is a method. And I actually sat down. This would have been, I can't quite remember the order. I guess this would have been my second house. I was getting a loan. It was kind of an unconventional property. It was zone light industrial, so I couldn't get a conventional loan. So I was sitting there talking to the banker, and I was going to have to pay a higher interest rate. And, I was going to be paying like 7% interest, which for everybody right now sounds like madness.
Yeah.
And he goes, and I had just graduated from college. Like I was just about to. And I was a really good saver, always lived way below my means. And so I would just hunker cash away, saving up for my next down payment, always working, always had a job, 2 jobs in the summer. And the banker goes, "What do you want to be when you grow up, Tony?" And I go, think I want to be a real estate investor. And he laughed at me, and he did not mean anything ill of it. Great guy, super, super great guy. Couldn't speak any higher of him. But I was a little taken aback that he laughed at me. And again, I was, 24 or whatever. So, sounded like, what does this kid know? But when he laughed at me in that moment, I was like, you know what?
Got a little chip on your shoulder.
I think I can probably pull this off.
Yeah.
Let me show you.
Yeah.
And so I became pretty diligent, kind of moving in that direction.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about, a lot of people, the minute that like you throw money on the fire, it accelerates them in the wrong direction or a direction. I'm not trying to tell people what direction they should be going, but you see a lot of people, they get a little bit of money and then like they get a little whiff. And the next thing you know, they're spending it on, for lack of a better word, dumb stuff. It's lack of like focus on priorities, but part of it was the like ignorance, the stuff you didn't know, which was a huge blessing, not knowing and just going for it and being willing to try. But like, tell me a little bit more about your mindset when maybe a friend or someone you knew went out and got a new truck. What were you thinking in that moment? Like, was it just really easy? Like, nope, I'm going to just stick to my game. You can do your thing. I'll ride in your truck. We'll ride on your boat, but I'm going to keep buying houses.
Yeah. I created a rule for myself at a really young age to never get a loan on a depreciating asset. And I've never broken that rule. And I never had enough cash to buy an $80,000 truck, because I was always buying houses with them.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I mean, you see cool stuff, looks awesome, but I was always working towards retirement. My goal was, I have to get to retirement.
How old did you want to be when you retired, or young?
I wanted to retire at like 30.
Yeah.
And part of it was like, I never really knew what I wanted to do. I had all these ideas of what I wanted to do, but yeah, I don't think I never had like that one thing that, and it seemed like people had these things, right? They're like, this is what I'm going to do. And that was never me. Right. And I was really consistent. Moceri Construction's rolling, working at Moceri Construction. And, always doing that, other businesses, but there was never like this one thing that I had that I was like, that's my calling.
I'm going to stamp a label on myself. This is
Tony.
Yeah,
I identify
Tony the astronaut
as a contractor, an astronaut,
yeah.
or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that was part of my struggle, is that, I always basically wanted to do whatever I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how my mindset had always been. And growing up, I spent a lot of time in the hallway at school, because that was kind of my attitude there too, which wasn't acceptable. And so I was just so driven to get enough money to not have to go to work. That I had laser beam, solar focus, like to the point where when my wife and I were first getting together, I had a condo I had bought. I was living with a buddy, and I had this house on Ellis Street, and something came up. She was come over. I don't know if we'd even gone on a date yet. Maybe we'd gone on a couple dates. She shows up. She's literally walking in. I go, I got to go. Emergency at a rental. And she thought I was blowing her off. She's like, well, this guy's a jerk.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we knew each other. We grew up together. And so she kind of assumed I wasn't actually a jerk, gave me another shot. And but then she understood that at that time, that was my life. Like, I couldn't afford to hire someone else to go respond to these things. If there's an emergency at a rental, I got to go. And so that was my thing. I was all in on laser focus, make enough money to not have to go to work.
It sounds like she admired the fact, or respected the fact enough to say, hey, look, you got to do your thing. Go do it.
Yeah. Once she realized, absolutely. She's definitely accepted me for that aspect of me. But she's as guilty as I am. Like, these hair salons,
Lindsay, he's calling you out.
These hair salons, all these businesses, everybody goes, oh, Tony, you're so entrepreneurial doing all this stuff. easily half of the stuff is instigated by Lindsay.
Yeah.
She grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So she saw it. She gets it. She knows that when it's got to be done. She put in a 12-hour day on Monday, between working her at the coffee shop and coaching volleyball. And we're that work hard, play hard mentality is definitely something that she and I both have.
It's something you guys clearly connect on. And what you just said something about laser focused. You're like, one of the things that you and I have in common is we're both ADD, and we're like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. This is cool. But then when we get laser focused on something, you can't like pull us away from it. It's done. You're like, I don't even know what's happening around me. Let's talk about horse blinders. So you got friends that are like, I've got my thing. I'm going to go be a fill in the blank. I'm going to go do this. And you're like, I just want to do whatever I can do so that I can be free. Essentially just be free. Tell me about this concept of freedom and just blocking other people out. Like, hey, we're going to go out and do this. Or were you just laser focused and we're like, I'm still going to play hard. I'm going to go hard at all times.
This is the latter. So like in college, there was a time where I was working. I think I was the only roommate in school at the time. They were like all kind of working. And it was just wake up at 6 a.m, finish my papers. Hopefully I'm sober from the night before, go to school, come back, go to work, come back. They hand me a beer when I walk through the door, party time, wake up, repeat. They on the weekends, they wouldn't wake up till noon. So I had from 6 till noon to write my papers. I was a history degree with an English minor. So lots of reading, lots of papers.
You're probably using that now, right? But you're using the writing.
I am finally using the writing.
I love it.
And I'd say that history, what it did is it kind of taught me how to learn, how to find information.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not working at a museum and I'm not teaching, which is kind of what I thought I was going to be doing with it. And so yeah, just I didn't want to miss out on hanging out. So I would just push. And then same thing when we were in our 20s, Lindsay and I just pushed, and I worked a lot of hours. And the hard part for me, and I really just learned this semi recently, is as I got a little further into the career and moved into the office and running jobs, and then I eventually got out of that. But I can't work around humans. I can't get anything done. I get totally distracted. So what would happen is I'd wake up, go to the office, not get anything done all day. People walk in, talk to me. I go to job sites, run around, talk to everybody, totally distracted all day, maybe responding to some emails or whatever. And then I'd have to go home at night and do all my work. Cause I literally couldn't do it. Just no focus at all when everybody's around. And so I've really, in the last few years, as I've been adjusting my life, adjusted it accordingly to work, be focused on working when I know I'm going to be efficient working, and not try to work when I'm going to sit there and waste hours being inefficient. I've learned my brain better now that if I sit down and can't focus, I'm not going to get focused. So go for a walk, go outside, go do something else productive that you can do that doesn't involve having to focus on a computer screen or a book or whatever.
It's like when you're in flow, be in flow.
Exactly.
Out of flow,
absolutely.
Or you're flowing on something else. Like you need some.
Yeah.
Some so
that laser focus for me, I've always had like this laser focus on my end mission of not having to work. And I want to talk about that a little bit more because my whole mindset on that has now changed. But so that was my laser focus from the time I was a kid till really just a few years ago. And then, otherwise it was moments of blinders, but otherwise, no, it's someone says, I want to do this. And I say, all right, let's go. Let's do it. I'll stay up till midnight doing my work so that I can go do this with you. Someone wants to get coffee. I say, all right, let's do it. we can find that hour somewhere else.
But you always still got your work done. Like the other work, you always found a way to get it done. And that's what I think a lot of people think that we have this like 9 to 5 window, and it's not always that way, right?
Absolutely. I mean, knock on wood, I don't miss deadlines. You know, I am super focused on, if I tell someone I'm going to do something, whether it's, getting a contract to them for Moceri construction, getting a lease in place, a writing deadline, um, you know, being at practice if I'm coaching, whatever, I'm there and I'm present.
So how do you find energy? Like some people are just like they have no energy. They could not even get close to pushing them. Like, do you think some of it's grit and the other part's energy? Like, do you have to have a balance of grit and energy, or is it all grit, or is it all energy?
I mean, I was born with a lot of energy. I think my parents said I didn't nap. So I was born with energy, but I attribute a ton of it to I get up and I exercise every morning. Well, as I've aged, I actually take a couple rest days now.
The truth comes out.
The truth comes out. I take Tuesdays
and
Thursdays off. But I still try to move, right? But I get up, I work out. I don't drink coffee unless it's like I drink coffee based off of the experience. Or if I'm at a coffee shop with someone, I get a cup of coffee. If we're camping by the fire, I'll have a cup of coffee or whatever. But I don't drink coffee. I get up, I exercise, and usually by the time I get into my workout, I'm ready to go for the day.
You're awake. What about sleep? Do you sleep?
Yeah, I sleep from 11 to somewhere between 5 and 6:30. I've stopped setting an alarm.
And you just wake up like you're on your circadian rhythm, and you just get up, your feet hit the ground. And do you ever fight it, or does your clock just ticking and going, dude, get up?
Lindsay actually commented the other day. She goes, "Man, you slept in." It was like 6:45 or something before I got up. And stuff happens. I get tired. I stay up too late. I worked out and did a pretty rad hike on Saturday, so maybe that contributed to it. Whatever. Drink too much.
Yeah.
I'm human. It's not like I can't abuse myself, but for the most part, I wake up kind of ready to go. On the weekends, often I'll get up and just read or write, and get my workout in a little bit later, especially if I'm going to go outside. I like it to be warmer and light, but, yeah, for the most part, it's pretty consistent.
Yep.
And I think the exercise, but also I'm easily excitable.
You're stoked that the day is happening.
I have stuff I want to do every day. And so if I'm excited about what I'm going to be doing, then it's easy. There's not enough time. I mean,
and you can design that. So you can design what your calendar says to you, or what you're planning. You're telling me that you can design your day so that you're excited about it every day.
Yep. I can design my day so I'm excited about every day.
How'd you do that?
Yeah. So construction is traditionally a 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's when we work. There's a lot of logic to it for being out in the field, have everybody on the same schedule. Some companies work 410s. We don't. Neighbors don't want us there too early or too late. And also we want to be there when the subs are on site. So we've been very consistent with that schedule. As I said earlier, that was always a real struggle for me because I was so inefficient during a lot of those hours, because humans were around.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reality of it. And so I struggled for it, and it was not socially acceptable to operate differently within our company. The culture was, this is how it's always been done. This is when you work. This is what happens. And said, okay, that's what I'll do. It was really hard for me. And I had set myself up to work remotely, and I was super excited when I did so. Finally got, a server already, got my Surface. I can work from anywhere. I can travel, work. When I go on vacation, I work all the time too. I love it. I like to be able to do that. And so, I was set up to do this, super excited that this was going to be my opportunity to design my life and work when I could work best, and not socially acceptable. Did not go over well with the team that was in place at that time.
Yep.
And said, okay, didn't want to buck the system. So kept operating how I was, and kind of changed the company. The company had quite a bit of change.
You had scaled it pretty
We had
large.
scaled it. We were up to like 40 people.
Where was it before you had scaled it?
20. It had always been
So
right around 20 people. We doubled in size. We had grown to 20, high 20s in the 2000, 8, 9 time frame, when the bottom would never fall out and money just fell from trees, and we're turning away giant great projects, and everybody knows what happened. Bottom fell out. We got chopped by 2/3, but then grew it back up, and got up to 40 people. Added some different divisions: landscaping, excavation, design. Really big crew out in the field.
And what were the pros and cons? Like what would you say were some of the biggest pros of having a bigger business, and what were some of the cons?
I mean, I liked having the crew. I loved the team. I really, really like that aspect of business. It's my favorite part, actually, is building that team, and having that piece, that, and I guess the creativity that kind of comes along with that growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really, really liked that aspect of it. Other than that, it was all superficial, ego, make more money. I am super competitive. I hate to lose more than I like to win. And so it was, all right, if I don't do this project, somebody else is. That's me losing. Have to win this project, have to win this project, have to do it. More people, more projects. Let's grow. Let's conquer the world. Downsides, I mean, really almost all of it. Like, we got to build some awesome houses for some awesome people. We got to have great people on the team. But from a stress standpoint, from a quality of life standpoint, it wasn't great. And my role had transitioned from, let's all get together and have a good time, going out on job sites, seeing cool stuff, meeting with new customers, finding new innovative things we can do, or growing a little bit, to putting out fires. That was it.
Just constantly.
When you're that big, there's going to be problems, and Tony was the guy to solve that problem.
So what was the tipping point for you where you said, no, this is like, I'm not doing this way anymore? So
my brother is one of those very logical, realistic people I surround myself with. He never wanted the company to be the size that it was. When we were growing up, it was that 18 to 20 range, building cool houses, doing cool stuff. And he always wanted to be around that size. He's super hands-on. He wants to have the space in his day,
which is like the 20.
Yeah, around 20 people.
Yeah.
Okay. And he wants to be able to go out and physically swing the hammer if he wants.
Yeah.
And we had gotten to the point it wasn't possible. He's managing like 10 jobs. And, we were talking, and he goes, God, this is crazy, Tony. Why are we doing this for money? And I go, well, yeah, I guess so. Don't we want to make more money? He goes, well, I don't care if we make more money. I don't care if we make way less money. And I go, well, that's a novel idea. I never thought of that. And my dad at that point he never wanted to be that big. It was never his aspirations. I was definitely the driving force behind that, and really was my competitive nature. And so we said, okay, well, maybe we shrink this thing a little bit. And we had, multiple project managers, and I guess at that time we had about 5 full-time project managers, 4 or 5, and just cranking, and project manager assistants, and lot of overhead. My dad always equates it to like an air traffic controller trying to land all the planes at the same time.
Yep.
I always equate it to like this giant dinosaur you got to keep fed, you know? And so my brother was like, you know what? Let's scale things back. Let's do more of our own stuff. We have projects that we've been talking about doing, property to build a house on, or we like flipping old houses. We really get kick on taking you find the worst house in Bellingham and we'll make it gorgeous, and getting people in a great home. And he goes, let's do more of that. And so it was real slow. We did it through people kind of naturally leaving, moving on to the work at the parks department or be an inspector at the city, or COVID hits and someone says, all right, I'm moving back to Connecticut, or whatever. And so it happened very naturally and over a few year period of time, where we just slowly shrunk down to the size that we're at now, which is where we want to be.
So in that process, you worked with, when your business is bigger, when you're feeding the dinosaur, right? You're feeding people to a dinosaur. No, I'm just kidding. But you're
essentially, I've seen myself.
So you're feeding the machine, right? And you're inevitably, like, there's a certain tipping point where you go from working with just people that like fit the mold of like who you want to work with, like just all around good people, to more people that are, hypothetically have enough money to afford a beautiful home that you guys build. Tell me about like your interaction with customers, because you're super easy to get along with, but when you're in like business mode, you have to get things done and things have to move smoothly, and there has to be a mutual respect.
So that mutual respect for me is the single-handedly the biggest thing. And I have had the foresight a few times to pass on projects because I didn't think we were going to get the mutual respect. Some people were very clear up front. Other people have tricked me. And I've gotten into very uncomfortable, awkward positions with homeowners, and most of the time they're respectful to me. I've had a few that have not been, but usually they are respectful to me. But I've had it where they weren't respectful to my project managers or some of the crew, and I had to tell them that that's not okay. I don't care if their last name isn't Moceri. I don't care if they don't have as much money as you or whatever. We're not doing that. Yeah. And, that can cost you money. It can cost you jobs. We've had our bumps in the road for sure. You can't make everybody happy.
Really?
Yeah. We tried, trust me. We made it a personal mission to make every customer happy. And, to the detriment, in my opinion, of my own health. I internalized that, blood pressure through the roof, stressed out. And, for me, yeah, we're really selective, and I love houses. I love property. It's one of my passions that I've had since day one, because I grew up just living it. The smell of that Doug fir in a fresh, in a framed up house is just, there's nothing better. Right. And so being around that, I love houses, but I only want to do it for people that are going to respect, definitely me, but my team more importantly.
Yeah.
And so we want to build cool stuff. Super fun.
What would you describe as like a cool, what would you describe as cool stuff? What's
so cool for me is something that's unique that I haven't gotten to do much of. So I don't know, putting, attaching a house to a rock, right? And, the engineer gives you this recipe of, you're going to bore in and you're going to physically attach this house to this piece of chuckanut sandstone. And I did the math. It's going to stay there. Nothing to worry about. And we go, all right, we believe you, engineer. We're going to attach this house to the rock, right? like that's cool. So things like that. Doing, I don't know, I'm trying to think. We've done so many different things, but architecturally different stuff. I'm getting more and more into land use. I haven't done that much of it historically. And over the last couple of years, I've been doing more. So learning more about that. And so we really like doing that cool stuff. Somebody once told me that the reason that people like working with Moceri Construction is because we give them the opportunity to do what they love to do. Like we just put in this awesome landscape waterfall. We have Chad is just incredible landscaper that works with us. And I don't know how to do that, right? Like I grew up around wood. And frankly, even that I'm really low on the skill level compared to anybody else on our team, right? But getting him to see him build this thing that I don't know how to do it is really cool. But for me, the most important thing though is working with that people are going to have that mutual respect. They're kind. So at this point, the economy is great. Everybody's calling, wanting us to do stuff. And so now it's really a discussion of what do you want to do? And is this a good fit for both of us? Is this going to be a successful project? As opposed to my mindset used to be phone rang, have to do the job. Doesn't matter if they like me. Doesn't matter if I like them.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We're building it because if I don't, I'm losing.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. I like what you said about kindness. And I think that, we talk about business, we talk about all these like robust terms, like just winning and gotta, beat out my competition, and kindness is really important. And you can be wealthy and kind, and you can be not wealthy and kind. Like kindness it goes such a long way in business. Tell me about, you're a kind guy. Tell me about how does that work? It's not always about money. It's not always about winning. It's about finding the right fit and treating people right.
Yeah. And for me, for a lot of the time, it was about winning and money. Right. And always trying to, I think my nature is to be kind, but I'm also super competitive. I hate to lose and I take things very personally. So, there's absolutely been times where I probably haven't been kind, whether I'm standing up for myself or someone else. Often it's for someone else because I really dislike bullies. And so this whole kindness thing, I feel like this term has really caught on in the last few years. And where I saw it first is at my daughter's elementary school. It's like everywhere. It's like make kindness normal. I'm like, wasn't that a great thing to be teaching children? Why isn't this plastered everywhere?
Teach this to clients.
Teach this to,
and other people in my industry.
Everybody, right? Like,
everyone.
Let's be kind to each other.
Yeah.
And so we have been really fortunate to have very kind. A lot of our customers have been kind and generous. And my dad just finished a project for someone that we built him a house 20 years ago down by Deception Pass. Wanted to downsize. So we designed and built him a second house, and we've done some other projects with him over the years. And the kindness that some of these customers have shown us has been unbelievable. In 2010, when we were just donezo, right? Like cut by 2/3, trying to keep everybody working. Nobody's making any money, but trying to make sure that, not cutting health insurance, paying all of our employees, never missing a payday. We sent out this flyer, I print up a flyer and we send it to everybody that we had ever worked for. Be like, do you need any of these things done? It's like cleaning gutters, anything to keep our crew working. And, these previous customers in act of kindness came out of the woodwork and they go, our kitchen's a little outdated. Why don't you guys remodel our kitchen? They didn't need a new kitchen.
Yeah.
And so we have seen kindness, in spades, and we've tried to pay that forward onto our team and into the community, but no, it's so underrated, right? You look at the news and you do whatever, and it's just so little kindness. And that's why I like coaching. I used to be on these boards, and it's a bunch of adults sitting around talking about all the great things we're going to do. And it's great. We need boards figuring out all these great things and all this stuff. Right. And, when my daughter was born, I kind of bowed out of all that stuff. And I go, you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to go coach. I'm going to go hang out with kids. I'm going to talk to them like they're humans, be kind to them. And that's how I'm going to give back. And I think showing that kindness, my wife, she's coaching volleyball, and she had a kid on the team that was, not listening that well. This is just a few weeks ago. Season's not even over yet, and not going great, acting out a little bit. And she noticed that, they didn't have athletic shoes. And my wife pulls her aside and she goes, "Can I give you a pair of shoes to wear?" And they go, "Okay." Instant change. They're now,
getting after it.
They're getting after it, And so I think things like that are really discounted in our society right now. We're so caught up in, and we're going to do a bunch of it after this, right? We're going to post to Instagram and say, "Oh, we just did this awesome podcast."
Yeah.
But
it wasn't awesome.
Well, yeah, well, we'll see. I know.
Yeah. Shitty host.
I'll edit it out.
Host was brutal.
Yeah, but
never doing this again.
Yeah. But we're also caught up in all that stuff, right? That, doing a simple act of kindness to me is super underrated.
And it doesn't have to be something huge. It can be something really simple that can really pivot someone's mindset or their attitude. Or,
asking them how their day was, or, taking the time to listen. Or
by the way, how's your day going? Yeah.
My day's going. Well, I'm here, so obviously great.
So let's shift a little bit back to Life by Design.
Yep.
We've talked about some examples of IQ, and like you and I learned, I think, very much the same. And then there's EQ, right? We've got this emotional intelligence, how you treat people, how you interact with people, and this adaptive intelligence that's like a new thing that people didn't know was a thing before. Tell me a little, like, what do you think is the most important of those types of intelligence? Are they all important?
Well, I think they're all important for society. I was actually just on a business coaching call with someone yesterday, and he was like, I wish my genetics were better. I wish I was born smarter. I go, yeah, we need people that are physically born brilliant to get us to Mars, right? But we also need people that are creative. And to me, creativity is the most important thing. I think that's what makes us human is creativity. And so creativity is where I put the most value on intelligence. And I think to design this life that I have, it has been through creativity. It's up at 3 a.m, can't sleep, laying there, thinking through problems, thinking about different strategies, being creative about, how I can make a, certain piece of property work, or, change Moceri construction, or start a different business, or whatever. I think that creativity, and then also being creative about how I manage my time. And again, working when I wrote a blog post about this, while the world sleeps. And that's when I get a ton of my work done, is while the world's sleeping. So people get emails from me early in the morning and late at night, and less during the middle of the day.
Please respond immediately. Just kidding. Yeah. So, and that's an interesting topic too, the whole topic of writing. So we talked about you writing papers in history, your history major, and fast forward, cut to, and you're freelancing. And this is like, I see it pop up on LinkedIn. I see them published in local publications. How did that happen?
Yeah. So I took a creative writing course when I get part of, checking off the credits box.
Yeah.
And at one point I went to my dad. I think I want to be a writer. He goes, "That's great. Why don't you?"
In that tone?
Well, no, I think it was like, "That's great, but
Okay.
why don't you, don't quit your day job just yet." I go, "Okay." And I had tried writing books before, and I still try doing that, but my attention span sometimes wanes, or so far always has. And I had a blog I was writing.
What was it about?
Well, I started off as The Working Dad, and then I changed it. It's just mine, and my friend called it I don't know, The Wandering Thoughts of Tony Moceri or something. They're kind of it's basically like business self-improvement type stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to write one about this this experience also.
Right on.
So it'll be on TonyMoceri.com, and I'll write, about getting to do this. And so I was writing that, and the owner of Southside Living approached me, and he goes, "Hey, you want to write something for the magazine?" And I go, "I guess so. Like what?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know. Let's chat about it." And a few months went by, and he goes, "Are you ever going to send me anything?" I go, "Well, I don't know what to send you." He goes, "Well, I could just publish your blog posts." And first thing I was like, "You read those?" And then I go, "Sure." So that was January of 2020.
Yep.
First issue published in that. And I was like, "Well, this is cool." And I sent a copy to my high school English teacher, who wasn't sure I was going to stay out of jail. And Lonnie Pitts, best teacher on the planet. And she, blown away that someone had published my writing. I could barely read when I got to her, And and so a few months went by, and COVID hits, and I'm sitting there bored. Governor says I can't leave the house. And I found an old listing for Wacom Talk looking for freelance writers from September of 2019. So I write up, what do you love about Wacom County? I sent it over to Stacy, and she responds. She goes, "Very nice writing. Do you know we're in the middle of a pandemic? We're not adding writers right now." And I go, "Oh," I go, "What if I write for free?" She goes, "You want to write for free?" I'm like, shocked anybody would want to pay me anyways. And so I wrote a free article on my friend's coffee shop, and she goes, "You're in." And I go, "What?" She goes, "Yep, you're hired." And I've been writing a couple for her. And then really that just gave me the confidence. And, and then I wrote a blog post. They can't say yes if you don't ask. So I just keep asking. To date, Sunset Magazine has not said yes, but if anybody there's listening, I'd love to write something for you.
They're actually one of our core listeners.
Good, yeah.
For you at Sunset, this is a shameless plug. Tony will be in your magazine next.
Yeah. So, but I keep, I'm in Mount Baker Experience, and I keep Business Pulse regularly now. And
Yep.
I've done some blog writing for some other businesses. And so it's super fun, real therapeutic. I do it early in the morning or late at night or on an airplane or whatever. And
when you're inspired, when you're
I
in
love
flow.
it. Yeah. When I'm in flow,
you can't stop you when you're in flow. And really interesting concept. You have been trading your time, or you have been getting more efficient at trading your time for money or things that you want or experiences. And you have this moment where they're like, "Well, normally we pay someone to do this." And you're like, "No." Like, what, how did you in that moment go, "No, I'm going to trade my time for this experience, this exposure, this whatever it was for you"?
So, okay. So I had my whole goal was to retire. That was it. Sole focused. And then I was sitting with my buddy talking to him, and he goes, "My mom just quit her job. She was going to retire in a couple years, but she said she was going to work for a few extra years and work at Starbucks because it's way more fun." And I go, "Whoa, I never thought of that. You mean I could like have a job and have fun?" And this was before we'd shrunk Moceri Construction and done any of that. And so I changed my mindset of I need to retire to I need to enjoy life. And to me, the biggest thing was flexibility, creating this flexibility to be able to do what I want and to be, because I love to work. I love having projects. I love doing stuff, but I want to be able to do them when I want to do them. And that switch, I also made the mental switch on, I might write an article and I might not make much money, but who the heck cares? Because I'm still blown away someone's letting me do this. Often I'm getting to interview awesome people for the articles, or I'm getting to go do something awesome for the article. And so I stopped worrying about the numbers and started just focusing on doing stuff I want to do. And my grandpa, who was a brilliant man, and we didn't have too many talks, but at one point he goes, "Tony, just do what you love and the money will come." And I didn't hear him at all. But I remembered it, decades later.
The more I swing a hammer, the more the money will come.
Yeah. And obviously the fact that Lindsay and I have had successes in businesses and real estate helps that we have some cash flowing properties, and that is all adds to the ability to have this flexibility. But it really is a different mindset that I'm not working towards some X amount of wealth. I need so much money. I need to be able to afford that truck or house or whatever. I want the time. I want to be able to drop my daughter off at school. I want to be able to coach. I want to be able to hang out with people like you, play yard games, go on a hike, whatever. I want to be able to do it. That's the most important thing, right? I think Snoop Dogg says in a commercial, if time is money, then shouldn't we think more about how we're spending it?
Yeah, I love it. Yard games.
Yard games.
All right, let's wrap it up with yard games. I think that we all love them. There's lots of them out there. There's a lot more than I ever knew just by following your page, and follow Yard Game Nation on Instagram.
That's
and
right.
Tony's product reviews are awesome. But tell me a little bit more about yard games and creating that, and like exploring the millions of different games that are out there and how that's unfolded.
Yeah. So I'm super competitive. We talked about that.
Really? I didn't hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Noted.
so I love competing at anything. So game room games, foosball, the yard games. One thing I love is their portability, but then the other thing is they're so creative, right? Most of them come out of somebody in their garage fiddling around, or a bunch of buddies in the backyard. They come up with this idea. They start throwing a Frisbee at a garbage can, and next thing you know, Can Jam's born, right? Great game,
Yeah.
And so, or the wife can't throw a beanbag far enough to play cornhole. So, on top ball toss is born, right? And so there's like all these different things that are created. And so I love that entrepreneurial spirit that goes along with yard games. And that's really that, and just physically playing them is where it kind of started. And so I had what I thought was a lot of yard games. I probably had 20 yard games, which is more than most humans
what do you
have.
Think the average number of yard games that someone owns? Like 3?
Probably 2 or 3, right?
Yeah,
they got
like media, probably cornhole
and +1, right?
And maybe some Polish golf, maybe.
Yeah. Do you know where the name Polish golf came from?
No idea.
Not Polish at all. It's because of the pole
that
it's on. I just learned that. I'm working on my website and I'm doing research on all these different games.
The more you know.
Yeah. And so that's what got me into it. And so I just like posted, I'm like, I'm going to start this thing. Lindsay, will you make me a logo? And so you got to see the logo. It's very patriotic. And I just started an Instagram page and just started posting pictures of yard games. Start getting followers and people going, hey, can I send you a game? I have like 15 followers at the time. And I still don't have very many. I got like a few hundred, right? But turns out there's this yard game community, and it is a community of the nicest people ever. All they want to do is play games and drink beer. They're all just great. So like I made all these friends through COVID, friends in quotes. We've like played virtual games with each other, like competing. We got the same game. And I was in like giant pong basketball tournament, 60-second challenge. And so it's like, it's spiraled into, I was on a yard game podcast. I'm working on a website, which is going to have, right now my list is around 100 games that are going to be on there.
Wow.
I own about 60 of them. And
you're slacking.
I know.
Yeah.
And some of them you can't even find, right? So I'm going to have to build them or whatever.
They're a theory.
They're a theory, or they're outdated or whatever. But, and I'm going to launch the website, I think, before I have all of them on there, but I'm starting with the most popular, and then and then eventually video, and, who knows? This is going to be, I want a yard game museum, and then my daughter's going to have to deal with it all,
Yeah.
So it's so positive. It's so fun. It gets people together outside, moving, playing. Anyone can do it. And yeah, the creativity, the innovation. So I just love it. And so, I post. I'm not very consistent on social media. I'm sporadic. I'm like, all right, I'm going to post a bunch, and I'll like post a little bit, and I'll do a YouTube video. But I'm trying to be more consistent just because I want to share all these games with everybody. And these people are working hard. There's not a lot of money in yard games for most people. So it's passion projects.
It's all passion.
It's all passion. And so to give them some free press, I will never like knock off a game. Right. So if I see a game that's some dowels and a block of wood, that someone came up with a new innovative way to play it. I'm not creating my own. I buy it from them. I don't care what the number is. They worked hard. They're working hard. We got to give them props.
Got to support them. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just all about fun.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, you do a lot of different things, but one thing that I think that makes it all cohesive is just like this whole, like the laser focus. Even if it seems like distraction and like a bunch of stuff going on, there's so much rooted around living a good life. And I admire the hell out of you for that. And I think other people that are wanting to be entrepreneurs are trying to figure out, like, how much do I grind and how much do I live my life? What's kind of like your final sentiment for the person that's maybe just like you?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing is to be very intentional about doing what you say you're going to do. So if I tell someone I'm going to do something, I work really hard to follow through, even if I regret agreeing to it at some point. I think the power of no is super underrated. I learned that a few years ago. And so it is hard being entrepreneurial, it's not all cocktail parties and coffee appointments, right? It's tons of time on your own, grinding it out, staring at a computer screen, late nights, early mornings, up all night worrying about stuff. I couldn't live any other way. It's just how I'm wired. Sometimes I'm envious of people that aren't wired like that, because sometimes it is exhausting. But I also love it. And so for me, it's following through on what you're going to say. And I also think it's okay to try something and then not do it. There's this sentiment of, oh, you can't quit. And like I say, I'm a firm believer on finishing what you start. If our daughter starts a sports season, she's finishing it, even if she doesn't like it. You committed. In the moment of something, I think you got to give it your all and do it. But if then you realize that's not for you, I think it's okay to say, oh, I'm going to do something else, right? We only have so much time, and find that stuff, do it for as long as it's enjoyable. And you may do it for your whole life, or you may do it for a period of time. Do your best at it while you're doing it.
Tony, thank you.
And Leo, I want to say, you guys do your best at this. It's awesome. Your guys' quality is so good. Your line of questioning is so good, and the production level is so good. It's awesome to see what you guys are producing. It's top notch. And so, keep at it. And it's great that you're highlighting so many awesome people locally.
Well, we appreciate you for coming in and sharing your story. And you are the exact reason that we do this. And this, like, I get excited, I laugh, I like tear up from laughing. I get excited about the questions, I get energized. So that's step one, is that we couldn't do this without you and the other guests that have come on the show. And then also this isn't possible without a team, just like you talked about.
Yeah.
I'm a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that sits here, but the gal behind me, she runs the show, and the guy over here, he runs all the content, and it wouldn't work without one of the pieces missing. So
yeah.
We appreciate you being one of those pieces.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think it's super cool that you're doing this. I flattered to be on, excited to hear it. And yeah, it's great.